Hey there everybody, welcome to the channel. If you're a returning viewer, then I'm glad to have you back. Good to see you again. And if you're new here, hopefully you'll see something that keeps you sticking around for a long while. I'm your host, Doodleman149, and today we'll be taking a look at the newest assault rifle available to us as part of Season 5's Battle Pass, the AN-94. Yet again, this weapon hails from Russia, but not so fast. This weapon doesn't use the typical 7.62 Soviet rounds. Instead, it has the smaller caliber 5.45 by 39mm rounds. The very same ones found in the ammo conversion for the AK-47. Check out my video on that if you haven't already. That being said, all the statistics I read and hear about this weapon give it a 3-shot kill to the upper torso at its closest damage range. Unfortunately, in all my testing of actual gameplay, I cannot think of a single time I've gotten a 3-shot kill unless I was hitting headshots. For the sake of this video, let's just call it a 4-shot kill to be safe. This weapon has a unique hyper burst function that is basically a very accurate 2-round burst that fires at over 1,000 rounds per minute with a minor burst delay. It is extremely spammable. This burst is available every time you pull the trigger, so it can be used in full auto mode. However, to avoid accidentally slipping into the weapon's much slower rate of fire, or if you just want to use the burst function, simply toggle your fire mode and you'll be able to go from full auto to burst mode. This is absolutely the way I would recommend running this weapon. I know this is a very lengthy introduction, this weapon is fairly unique in some departments, but that being said, before I start, if anyone wants to see any specific gun for my next workshop, just comment your suggestion down below and I'll get right on it. We still have the Odin and M13 left in the assault rifle category, so I'll be working on those next. Now, on to the builds! For my close range variant of the AN-94, I present to you all the Phantom. Focusing primarily on ADS and strafe speed, this would be the only variant where I would use this weapon in full auto mode. Starting off with the barrel, I've chosen the VLK AN-94 Sila barrel to increase our damage range and bullet velocity. Next, I use the tack laser to boost our ADS speed as well as aiming stability. Next up, I use the Viper Reflex optics since this weapon has the worst iron sights I have ever seen. In the stock section, I picked the VLK PX9 Pero stock for ADS speed boost as well as a strafe speed boost. And lastly, the stippled grip tape boosts our ADS speed and sprint out time. If you've seen any of my gun workshops before, you'll notice that this build isn't exactly one of my typical close range builds. This is more of a standard assault rifle built for medium range fighting instead of rushing people. The reason for this being that I don't feel confident hip firing this weapon or using it in close quarters period. The rate of fire isn't anything that can really compete up close against most SMGs or other assault rifles like the FN/FAL. That being said, I've attempted to create a build that'll take advantage of any inherent strengths the AN-94 may have. The Sila barrel is a nice middle ground between the standard barrel and the heaviest barrel. It extends our effective range and our bullet velocity without slowing down our movement speed. It does cause some ADS speed, however. In order to counteract this slight slowdown and to keep the weapon more stable for mid-range gunfights, I use the tack laser. By combining the PX9 Pero stock and the stippled grip tape, this weapon is very snappy and allows for decently fast strafe speeds while aiming down sights. I chose the Viper Reflex optic since it's my favorite one to use and it provides that small zoom that all reflex sights do. I'll be making a video on optics in the future, so be sure to keep your eye out for it. The Phantom is best for standard multiplayer. It can hold its own in the right hands in ground war, but may be outclassed by better ranged weapons. And without a suppressor and the smaller magazine capacity, this build should not be used for Warzone. For a longer range version of this rifle, might I suggest you try using the Ghost. This build is equipped with a monolithic suppressor to keep us stealthy and stretch out our range, along with the factory X438mm barrel, which also increases our recoil control and bullet velocity. I next use the tack laser to compensate for the ADS speed reduction of the first 2 attachments, as well as boost our stability. I decided to pop on the VLK 3x optics since this is for longer ranges, and it does provide that minimal vertical recoil reduction. And to round things off, I chose the 60-round mags to give us more total ammo to deal with large groups of enemies or armored enemies in Warzone. With this build, I've decided to take advantage of the AN-94's hyperburst feature to make a spammy yet accurate burst rifle. The Ghost attempts to stretch out the range of this weapon as far as possible. The monolithic suppressor keeps the user off the radar while also extending our range. The longest barrel for this weapon, the concisely named AN-94 Factory X-438mm barrel, Quite a mouthful, isn't it? Greatly extends our damage range while also reducing our vertical recoil. That recoil reduction is what can really make this build more effective at range. Since we'll be using this build exclusively in burst mode, dampening this recoil allows you to spam it out far more accurately than you would without this barrel. The VLK 3x optic helps in this department slightly as well, however it's mostly just used to engage further targets visually. The 60 round mags are what allows this weapon to hold a place in Warzone. By doubling up on the standard magazine, you'll be far more capable of dealing with multiple foes at once, or have more leeway when it comes to dealing with the armor other players will be wearing in Warzone. This build is basically what the FR56 would be if it was any good in Warzone. This variant can certainly hold its own in standard multiplayer, however, it's specifically built to handle the battlefields of Ground War and Warzone. Between those two modes, however, this weapon would definitely be better for Ground War than it would be for Warzone. After all that, this just about does it for my suggested builds on Russia's AN-94. If you want to know my honest opinion, which of course you do, I honestly dislike this weapon very much. It's just above the Grau 556 for me, and if you've seen my video on that, you'll know that that is not a compliment. Check that video out when you're done with this one. As I stated before, this weapon has more of a 4-shot kill as opposed to every report saying this weapon provides a 3-shot kill to the upper torso. Given this weapon also has a bizarre 2-round burst, you'll have to fire at least twice, although at farther ranges you'll need far more than that. I'm sure I'll get at least one comment saying I just don't know how to use this weapon, but let me put it this way. Grinding this weapon to max made me seriously consider not playing this game anymore. Not only did I not enjoy using the weapon at all, the grind itself was tedious since any of the unique attachments came so late in the unlock cycle. There were times where I'd level this weapon up 10 times and have only unlocked useless underbarrel launchers and ugly optics. If this weapon had a more rewarding grind, I don't think I would have dipped to the depths I did. Opinions out of the way, this weapon isn't exactly bad. It's mediocre in a number of ways, but not at all to the same degree as the Kilo 141. With the Kilo, all the average stats work to make a reliable, consistent weapon. Here, this weapon is just a spammy burst rifle with a piss-poor standard rate of fire after the burst. The damage never felt consistent, and I was basically never confident being in close range with this weapon, hence why the Phantom is more of a mid-range build. The Ghost can take advantage of the weapon's burst fire by keeping it very accurate and stretching out its damage range, but even then I was getting out-damaged by many other weapons. In summary, this weapon has the inconsistent burst of the FR556, the fire rate of the Odin but without the damage, and the sheer annoyance factor I experienced with the Grau 556. I'm sure many of you will enjoy this weapon, I just can't say that I did while testing it, and I don't think I'll ever enjoy it in the future, especially since I will never be willingly using it again. And with that, thank you very much for making it to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw and heard, feel free to give me a thumbs up using that button down there. If you want to hear more from me, that subscription button is just begging to be pressed as well. And if you think you know people who might benefit from this, be sure to share it and spread the word. I appreciate your time and really hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you're having a good day, and I hope your week is awesome as well. This has been Doodleman149. I look forward to seeing you next time, and I will see you later.